Hey, good morning. Happy Monday. I wanted to come on today. I know I'm a little bit early today, but I actually have a doctor's appointment at the time I normally go live. And so I figured I would come on a little bit early today so I could still get the live done and talk to you about networking because this is something that a lot of people are asking me about in the Empower Bookkeeper Network group. And so I thought I would take a little bit of time to to talk about that today. And I just realized I think the baby monitor is plugged in. Hold on. Let's see. Oh yeah, it is. All right. Let's turn it off. Okay. Yeah, Eric is outside with Jeff, so we don't need the baby monitor on this morning. Okay. I could kind of hear like a little bit of feedback because the door's open because the boys are outside. So yeah, okay, that's much better. All right, so let's talk about online networking. And kind of some of the pet peeves you have and what's okay, what's not okay, what is kind of expected. Hey, good morning, Kathy. Good morning. So I think especially when you start a new business, the idea of networking online is really overwhelming because I think most people are not their initial circles on Facebook are their friends, right? And their family. And so when you start networking online, people want to friend you. And a lot of people go, I don't know if I want to do that. Whoa, right? So somebody in the group had kind of said like, hey, my personal life is personal and I don't know if I want to do business with people who are interested in my personal life. Now, I want you to think about, back before COVID, right? And I don't know about you, but I used to be really involved in my local town. I was on the Board of Ed. I was really involved in the chamber. I did a lot of volunteering. I served on a lot of boards. And then I pulled back because I was spending like so much of my life doing that, that I kind of pulled back. And then Eric was born. But, there's a lot of people in town who know me, and not even necessarily like know me well. They just kind of like maybe we served on a board together or, maybe we're in the chamber together. But there are a lot of people in town who know me. And so, I would go to like a craft fair or something and people would stop me and say, oh, hey, Kristen, how you doing? How's your husband? How's your son? Now that sounds like a normal question, right? That sounds completely normal, right? And so, so we talk about Jeff and Eric a little bit, and then I would ask them how their family's doing, and it's a good, it's a good kind of conversation starter question. But when people ask those sorts of things online, everybody goes, oh, yeah, blah, yeah, stalker, blah, ah, right? And we kind of all get freaked out a little bit. I think that sometimes we think that everyone on the other side of the computer is a potential contestant, for the Are You a Predator show. I mean, really, I think a lot of time that's what we think. When, most of the time, the people on the other end are just their people, right? And especially right now, people are really craving connection. So I say in the Empower Bookkeeper Network, which is part of Bookkeeper Training School, I say in there all the time, like people want to do business with people they like and trust. How do you develop that, right? If you're not willing to talk to people. Okay. Now, you can decide how you want to connect with people. Okay. You can totally make that decision. So if you don't want to friend people, you don't have to. You can direct them to your page. However, remember that when you do that, right, you're kind of putting up this wall that if somebody came up to you in person and said, hi, how are you? How are your kids? Or do you have any kids? And you're like, no, I don't want to talk about that. Nope, I don't want, nope, business only, put up the bookkeeper training school sign, boop, and that's all I want to talk about. Um, would you want to do business with somebody like that? Right? You're hindering that like and trust factor. Now, I'm not saying your life has to be an open book. You know, there's lots of settings that you can use on Facebook. Um, if you decide to friend people, there's lots of settings that you can use so that you can create, you know, a friends and family group, right? And most of your posts go there. Um, and your posts aren't, you know, necessarily public to the rest of the world. You can totally do that, and that's fine. If you decide not to do that and you direct everybody to your page, you're probably going to want to put some like and trust stuff on your page. Okay. And so like you'll see, like if you look at my pages, you know, I talked about our power outage, you know, I talked about, you know, how empty my fridge is right now. You know, we share some stuff about Eric. And what that does is it helps build like and trust, right? Very important. So, um, if you decide that you really like your Facebook is personal and that's it, then what I would do is I'd probably focus most of my attention. If you're targeting other business people, which I know that's what people in bookkeeper training school are doing, then I would probably focus on LinkedIn more than Facebook. Have a Facebook page, you know, make sure that's linked in your profile, but really focus your attention on LinkedIn because then you can, you know, you can focus in on, you know, connecting with your connections. You know, you can join some groups over there. The only thing that I would caution you with is that many more people spend much more time on Facebook than they do on LinkedIn. And so if you're looking to build connections that are going to result in business, I'll tell you in my experience, and it's funny because I think I have more connections on LinkedIn than I have people who like any of my pages on Facebook, except maybe Bookkeeper Training School, but we run ads to that page, um, or from that page. Um, I get way more business on Facebook than I do on LinkedIn. And that's been, you know, for any of my businesses. And that I think is just because, you know, like and trust factor, right? So I don't spend a lot of time over there trying to build like and trust like I do over here. Um, and it can be done on LinkedIn. It's harder on LinkedIn. People don't spend as much time on their feeds in LinkedIn. However, the cool thing I think with LinkedIn though is that when you get a new connection, it's kind of expected that if you ask to connect with somebody, that you're going to send them a private message. Okay, that's pretty much a given on LinkedIn. Where on Facebook, I think people get a little bit more annoyed when you send the direct, you know, the DM right away. So I think that's a difference between the two platforms. Um, I'd love to know, you know, as you guys, those of you that have businesses, you know, what are your pet peeves when people are doing business on Facebook? One of the things that drives me crazy, and again, like I come from the world of, you know, going out there and going to networking events and joining chambers and, you know, being on boards and volunteering and doing all these things. So that's the world I come from, right? And I know that a lot of people they've never done that side of it, right? They've just said, okay, I'm online, I'm supposed to network, and so I'm going to connect with people and I'm going to DM them right away. That will not help your business. Okay? Especially, again, think about this like and trust factor, right? There are a lot of people who will friend you on Facebook, and then like the second that you accept, they DM you with a sales pitch, right? Have you gotten those before? So think, like, to me, that feels like a spam call, right? So it's like my phone, hello, and it's this automated thing that's like, hi, thank you so much for picking up the phone. Marriott has this great rewards program, or we've been trying to connect with you about your car because your extended warranty is about to expire. Please press 2 now. That's kind of what it feels like when somebody's like, hi, my name is X, and I sell, or I help, or I do da 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 da, with like a link to their website, or they're inviting you to their group or whatever. And you're like, I don't know you at all, right? And I'm getting a sales pitch. It really feels like a spam call. Now, I've had some people very effectively message me and say, hey, thanks so much for connecting. I'm really looking forward, to learning more about you. And then they'll actually they'll start interacting with my posts, and then I might hear from them later. That I think is a really effective way to build connections. Okay. If you're in the Empower Bookkeeper Network, I would highly recommend that you go back through and check out the interview that we did a couple months ago with Renee Rebar. She did an hour with the group and kind of talked about how she cultivates relationships online. It's a really good interview. Yeah, if you're a member of Bookkeeper Training School, you have access to that interview. But she did a really good job kind of breaking down what she does to build relationships online. I think it's really critically important that when you get an idea, like, okay, so this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do, put it through an in-person check, right? And what I mean by that is, if you were in a room with 30 people, okay, I know you can't really do that right now in most places, but if you were in a room with 30 people and you walked up to one of those people and gave them the same pitch that you're about to send somebody in a DM or, post to their wall. I've had people post directly to my wall with pitches. No, that's a good way to get blocked. Just kind of think about okay, if I were doing this in a business setting, would this feel appropriate to me? And I think if you take online marketing that way, then you're going to be much more successful. Because, some of the things that you might think, oh, well, I'll do this, it won't clear that check. So what can you do? Okay. So I spend probably a couple hours a week going through groups where I know that my ideal customer hangs out, and also just going through my feed, right? Because I'm friends with a lot of people, and so I'll comment on people's stuff. I will share people's stuff if I think that it's that it's good. Even on Instagram, I will connect with people, and then there's a little flag. There's a little arrow on your Instagram where you can share people's stuff to your stories. And so that's a really good way, connect with other people's stories, get to know people. I mean, that's really what online marketing is all about. I think people are looking for this quick fix. There is no quick fix. Okay. And that's why I recommend, when people join Bookkeeper Training School, I recommend that you start networking from pretty much day one, because it takes time to develop relationships. I think, people think I started a business and I'm going to get clients tomorrow. Sometimes that happens. We've had people in Bookkeeper Training School that the first time they said, hey, look, I started a bookkeeping business and I'm going through this training. They've gotten people to reach out to them and say, hey, awesome, let me know when you're ready because I need a bookkeeper. And that is fantastic when that happens. That's so cool. But I think it takes time to cultivate relationships, right? And typically what we find when that happens is it's somebody you have a relationship with, right? It's somebody that you're friends with, or It's somebody that a friend of yours knows, and so like shared your post or shared that information. Um, and so, that's why I think it's really important to share with your friends and family, hey, I'm going through this training to become a bookkeeper. I'm going through this training to become a virtual assistant, or I'm going through this training to build websites. And let people know that you're starting this training. And then when you finish the training, you're like, hey, I finished my training. Look, in QuickBooks, there's a QuickBooks certification. Hey, look, I got my QuickBooks certification. Hey, I built my Facebook page. Like, you have all these little touch points you can talk about. Um, but these are people you've already cultivated relationships with. Once you start moving out of that, then you've got to cultivate new relationships, right? So it takes some time. I even tell people, if you're doing live networking, right, live one-on-one networking, it's typically going to take you anywhere between 2 to 3 months of showing up on a regular basis, to build those relationships. Um, sometimes people in the course, they get frustrated because they're like, okay, I met with, my first prospect and they said no. Okay, cool. All right, keep going. Because not everybody's going to say yes. Not everybody's going to be interested in what you're selling. And so you have to keep going. And the more practice you get, the better you're going to get at this. You have to remember, I've had my business, my firm, for, let's see, it's 2020. We opened it in 2007, so 13 years. And then I did networking for one of the firms that I worked for too. So, this is something I've been doing for a long time. This is something, we tested different things. And, we tested direct mail for one of our businesses. Did not work super well. Because again, it was one of those like, hi, we're here. We have this new business. Do you need something? Right? I was way back in the day. That's when Jeff was doing like computer repair and websites and stuff. We did like direct mail to new businesses. We always found that the most effective thing has always been to build relationships. We don't spend, for our service-based businesses, we don't spend money on advertising. We do for Bookkeeper Training School. But again, the thing that I think is funny is typically when people buy, right, even Bookkeeper Training School, they will, they'll go through whatever sales process we have, and then they'll watch some of our videos. And it's really funny. So they might watch some of these, they'll watch some of the stuff I do on the Bookkeeper Training School page, they'll read a whole bunch of our emails. They get to know us and they get to know me, and then they make their decision. It's not an instantaneous thing. Okay. And as soon as you realize that, it'll be a lot easier to keep going. Okay. It was amazing. We had somebody in the group last week that had 3 new clients in a week. Like 3 new clients in a week during a pandemic. We're seeing people, enact the strategies that we talk about in the course and are getting clients during a pandemic. It's fantastic. It's amazing. And so, there is work out there. People are spending more time than ever on social media. This is a great time to build your networks. Go into groups, be helpful. And you don't even have to talk about, if you're a bookkeeper, you don't have to talk about bookkeeping. If you're a virtual assistant, you don't have to talk about being a virtual assistant. Just get in the groups, like there's lots of new business owners, in some of these groups. You'd be like, oh yeah, I remember when I started my bookkeeping business, and I was so overwhelmed by all the things, if that's what their post is about. You can always relate back, right? When I started my bookkeeping business, or when I started my virtual assistant business, or when I started my web building business, or when I started my insert the name of your business here, right? Yeah, I totally felt that way. Or, yeah, running a business with having little kids is really tough, and these are the things that I've done, you know, and talk about your strategies. That's a really good way to network and not be pushy. And then eventually what happens, people are like, wow, I really like this person, she's super helpful. And you start to build out your network. So, you know, it's networking. First of all, I mean, for me, it's great because I'm an extrovert and I miss people. I love doing these things and seeing, folks like Kathy and Denise on the live with me. That's really helpful. Um, but, like for me, it charges me up. I know that that's not, it doesn't do that for everybody, but even if you're an introvert, having this kind of, if you think about that, there's this distance between, right? I think sometimes that really helps. All right, so I want to know, okay, what are your pet peeves when networking online? Okay. And I want to know what you're going to do this week to start networking online. Okay, what are you going to do? Post it in the comments, and start to put your plan together. Okay, because this is a really good time to do this. This is a really good time to get out there, and start growing your network. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Those are all my alarms and stuff are beeping at me to tell me I need to go. All right, guys, I'm telling you, ladies, you can do this. You can totally do this. I know you can. Just start. Put one foot, put one post, make one comment. You can do this. I know you can. All right. Love you so much. Have a wonderful day. Take care.